Hey guys, Kings here. Welcome back to another unit spotlight. Today we're going to be covering over the Imperial Spearmen. Since the new patch of Season 10, spears or shielded units and some cavalry have had a serious buff. And we're going to be covering over the Imperial Spearmen, as before today they've not been the most viable unit in either normal siege games, field battles or territory war. However, with the recent changes, we are seeing an increase in the use of the unit and a variety of other additional benefits. So we're going to cover over our typical 10-minute spotlight. We're going to look at the veterancy lines, we're going to look at the doctrine setup, and then we're going to have a look at a couple of examples in game of how they're used, what to do with them, and how best to use the unit to get the best result in your games with this unit. As always, any questions, please don't hesitate to drop a comment or come over to the Athena Discord or jump onto my stream when I'm streaming now and again and ask any questions you have on this unit. So, without further ado, let's get into the unit veterancy line and the doctrines. Okay, so let's have a look at the barracks. Let's find our Imperial Spearmen, or in this case, Elite Imperial Spearmen. So first off, we have 245 leadership. Not bad for a unit of 32 men, and we can see that these guys have got a nice unit attire on, very nice. We go to the veterancy line, we'll start with the top line. So the top line, increased slashing defense, increased piercing defense, unit reduces damage taken after enemy penetrates armor by 5%, increased blocking by 40, increased health by 3%, reduces damage taken from the rear by 5%, quite nice, reduces bleed damage when armor pierced by 20%, it's quite nice. Each level reduces range damage by 10%, and then we have the final one, Dauntless, reduces damage taken by 5% and changes the unit appearance. Okay, not too bad. The bottom line, so each level increases damage by 8% while in non-dispersed formation. Now this isn't the best because you're going to be using this unit in formation most of the time. But let's move on. So each level increases defense attributes at 8% while in non-dispersed formation. Again, not the best. However, cannot be stunned by ordinary attacks. Now let's take those first two. This unit needs to move, and it needs to move a lot, whether you're pushing or defending. When it's not in formation, having a reduction in damage and increase in defense is actually quite a strong perk. If this unit breaks formation, where it has an extremely high defense, and it's vulnerable, so having those extra two, the defenses there, are really going to help this unit to stay alive when it needs to push or it needs to move in a different direction. Again, with the fact that it can't be stunned by ordinary attacks, this is really going to help it move forward, get back into formation, and then you can continue your push or defense however you're using them. Moving on, increased block by 40, very important, and we have a increased blocking recovery by 20%. The next two, increased passive skills, Shield Bash, which we'll go through in a second, and then Shield Bash can knock enemies down. So what this means is when your unit is formed up and its shields are in the front, if units approach every 20 seconds or so, the unit will knock back the unit. They will bash them, knock them over, and they will basically keep that front line protected. We have an ability that is unlocked as well, which is 250 health per second for 15 seconds. This is very good for this unit. This unit will be taking a lot of damage, and therefore having the natural ability when you're not, say, a longsword, to use a heal is very important. If you then add a longsword heal to this unit becomes super tanky and an exceptional frontline unit. Finally, increase all defense types by 20% and changes the unit appearance. So if we compare the two, 5% reduction in damage taken, which is good, or a 20% increase in all defenses, the bottom line is far superior when it comes to this unit. So let's have a quick look at their stats. So health, very high, their speed, very low, and their damage, very low. Not very good whatsoever. However, their defense attributes are very strong. Plus the additions of these extra benefits here through the blocking, these stats are really going to help tank the unit out. Let's move to the abilities here, or the traits. So lock shields, This unit has a massive shield which grants or gives extra protection to the front, but no protection from behind. When an enemy approaches the formation from the front, the forward soldiers can lock their shields and repel the foe, can trigger every 20 seconds. So what this is doing is it's combining with Swift Hands and Shield Bash. Heavy armour, pretty self-explanatory. Insulated, which will reduce the damage the unit takes while set on fire. And then Sluggish. They are exceptionally slow as a unit, and we'll cover this in a second on how you can mitigate some of that. And then finally, Shield Bearers. Naturally, with these big shields, there's a big damage reduction from ranged. So let's have a look at their doctrines. If we go back to the unit details, let's have a look at the doctrines themselves. Now, we have, on the right-hand side, we have all of the epic spear doctrines, so increased block by 400, increased block by 250, and then increased block recovery by 200. Finally, Spear Doctrine 3, which gives them full round defense, extra 100 on slashing, piercing defense, and blunt defense. Again, this unit is a tank unit. It is not a damage dealing unit. The idea of this unit is to hold the line on the front and allow the units behind it to do the damage for you. It is not going to get you an absolutely eye-watering amount of kills. They will pick up kills now and again when units are low, or they knock units back and they finish them off. But this unit will not typically do huge amounts of damage. To mitigate that sluggishness, we've got the Epic Mobility Doctrine. Now this is, I always go for this because it's important to get the unit to the front as fast as possible, and also when you need to reposition or push the unit forward or back, having this extra movement speed will get the unit back to where you need them to be, or where you need them to be, in the quickest amount of time available to them. And then finally, I've gone for the extra health. You could use other things such as blunt defense. Remember, artillery and things like short swords and mauls will be able to use their abilities to break these formations and get behind them and do some damage, knock them over, etc. So having that extra health, that extra tank, it just helps them to survive. The blunt mitigation though, if you're using something like blunt defense like this, increases blunt defense, this will also help them against that. But generally, I prefer to go with the health because it's more full-rounded. So let's take a look at the different unit formations. In this example, we have the shields in line formation. They have their shields to the front, shields on the top, but no shields to the side. We have a second formation, which is the block formation, exactly the same. We have shields to the front, to the sides, and on the top, and no back formation, or no back defense. And then finally, we have the circle formation, which is pretty self-explanatory. Shields around the outsides, shields on the top, and this is also the second ability. If I step away from the unit and press 2, the cover commander will ensure the unit moves to my position, has immune to CC effects, and will adopt the circle formation. Now if I move around, the unit will follow me and continue to circle around my position. So let's give this a bit of an example. In this case, as I've mentioned, this unit is a support unit. It has a very, very low damage output, which is why behind us we have a unit of tertios. Tertios have an extremely high burst output, and we'll be doing a unit cover guide on these shortly because they've just had a rework. So let's approach some enemies. The tertios will follow us behind. And what we can do while we're moving is these are very slow. We can press the sprint ability and we can naturally see that the unit will run that extra bit faster, getting to our target. So if we form up, we can see the archers are now shooting into our shields. Put the shields up, the tertios behind, and the tertios will deal with those archers relatively simply. Now this is a basic field battle, and therefore the units are grey, very, very simple. So we'll get rid of these archers, and then we'll go over to some spears and see what we do with them. So it looks like the tertios have finished off the archers, there or thereabouts. One more to kill. Come on, we can get him. There we go, and he's dead. So let's move over to the infantry here. Let's use a different ability here. So we're going to use the line formation, and we're going to use the advance. So we're a little bit farther away from them for this, but we're going to press 1, we're going to form up in an advance, and we're going to advance towards the enemy. And then we're going to press X, we're going to form up, and it's going to hold the line and keep our tertios safe. Now you can imagine what this will look like in actual games. The tertios will basically cover for us. So let's get into actual game footage to see how these units are used. So, in our first scenario, we have a nice little setup here. We've got our shields in the front line. We've got another unit of shields in front of us. We've got paladins in the back here, covering a different entry point to our little corner here. Imperial pikes dealing with those, moving forward using their advance. We've got flamers and gunners in the back lines. We put a couple of grape shots down, and we've set up a bit of a fortification in the corner here. The point here is that these shields are acting like a brick wall. It's very, very difficult to push past them, and it's very, very difficult to get round them. We just took a direct treb in the back, and we didn't lose a single unit. So we've got a couple of different, we've got long swords, 2 long swords constantly popping heal. As a glaive, I'm popping the damage buff for the surrounding units, and we're also using the active 250 per second heal that comes with the Imperial Spearmen. As this situation progresses, we're going to see a charge from the enemy here, or a push, and our imps that are hiding, our Imperial pikes are hiding behind our shields, catch the enemy off guard and manage to secure them, or push them back when they start to advance. Again, using the flamers, using the 40 brachios there in the back, starting to move forward to replace the spears that were once there. It's all about holding up the enemy while our big damage dealing units do the damage, and our shields holding the line and keeping our vulnerable units like flamers and gunners safe. As the situation progresses, they're pushing in the other side. Our flamers are there to keep them held. In this situation, we're actually setting up a bit of a different formation. On this map, typically in the defense, everybody goes to the home point and around the corner. In this case, we're using 2 units of Imperial Spearmen. We have some Fortebracios, some Flamers, holding these different bottlenecked entrances. You can see this unit, though, of Imperial Spears has taken quite a lot of damage. The majority of the enemy are bombarding them with Shenji Grenadiers and a variety of other units like artillery. And now it's time for me to replace our original unit with my unit, leaving the flanks semi-exposed, but we do still have 40s on there. The Flamers then open up when they push, doing a substantial amount of damage, and we're just biding time. The longer that it ticks down on the clock, the higher the probability that we'll win the game. And that's all that this is. We're using those shields to cover our high damage units. This is exactly what typically happens in this scenario. This is your typical setup, or what you commonly see in siege games, where Imperial Spearmen have got a variety of damage dealing units under them. We just took a direct Shenji Grenadier bomb there, and as you can see from our shield health, we really didn't take that much damage. Our shields were already half damaged as they were, so our long swords are keeping them stable, they're keeping them up, and we're using our heal whenever possible. In a second, we're going to see a second grenade. Any second now should see a second load of grenades, and what you'll see is we hardly lose any of them whatsoever. After 2 bombards from the Shenji Grenadiers, typically that would one-shot a unit, or pretty much do enough damage to render it useless. So really, the unit is fantastic. It's a great support unit, a very good kind of hold the line unit. Not the best damage deal unit, but if you're playing with mates and you're playing in a team, then having that unit protecting your damage dealing units is really great. So I hope you enjoyed this basic guide to Imperial Spearmen. They are meta now, or they're becoming meta, used a lot more in games. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop a comment, come over to the Twitch channel, or by all means, come to the Athena channel and ask questions there. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this helps. We'll be doing more up-to-date videos soon. Thanks very much for tuning in. Have a great day.